going on, everybody? Welcome back. Gerald here with your weather forecast. We got a lot we're going to discuss today, although I'm sure most of you are here for that chance of snow down south into the Carolinas this weekend, and we're definitely going to discuss that. A big portion of this video is going to be dedicated to that, but we also have ongoing severe weather right now that will continue into tomorrow and Friday as well, and even snow in other parts of the country that we are going to talk about. So we're going to discuss all of that in today's video. If you are new here, which I'm sure many of you are, just because usually when we have these active kind of weather systems, I tend to get more views, and if I'm getting more views than I have subscribers, obviously some of you are new here. So if that's you, welcome. My name's Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and welcome to my channel. This is a pretty new channel, actually. We've only been doing this for like a month and a half now or so. So we've done some pretty crazy and exciting things over that time period, and we're looking to continue that. So if you would like to subscribe, definitely consider doing so. And if not, that is also fine. But hopefully you learned something from this video and you feel a little more informed by the end of it. So with all that said, don't want to keep you for too long because I understand that we are all very busy people with very busy lives. So let's go ahead and get into this and try to make this as productive and informative as possible. So looking at current radar here, here's this storm system we've been talking about. We've had a lot of lead up to it, and here it is. You can see on radar that low is centered over Oklahoma right now, and that is helping to bring some of this warm Gulf air northward, and that combined with wind shear that is also ongoing, we are having some storms and some severe storms fire across sections of Louisiana and Mississippi this evening. That will likely continue into the overnight, and we also have some flash flooding ongoing in Arkansas. So at this moment in time, already some active weather ongoing across the country, and on satellite you can really see this low really beginning to crank up, tap into that Gulf moisture, and have a big shield of that rain that we're dealing with out there in the middle of the country. And this is going to begin to continue to work northward and eastward over the next day or so, and that's why we have all these hazards out there. Look at these flash flood watches out here into the Ozarks, into northern Arkansas, flash flood warnings as well. And then, at least at this current time, we do have a tornado watch here into sections of northern Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, sections of extreme western Mississippi right along the Mississippi River there. And then we also have some winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings up here into sections of the Midwest, and that even goes up into sections of New England. And then kind of in between all of this, we have these wind advisories and high wind warnings, because with this strong low pressure, you get those isobars to get real close to each other, and that causes the atmosphere to try to rebalance itself. And with that, we get these high winds kind of in those areas that see that storm roll on through. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick overview of this entire system, then I'll break down each individual threat, and then we're going to talk about that snow potential in the Carolinas this weekend. So that's kind of the game plan, and we'll start with this overview here. So again, this is that current storm system that we're going to talk about. As we move this ahead into the overnight tonight, you can see it really begins to crank up, starts working its way over Missouri here, and with that, you're going to get a pretty nice band of storms here to the south, and that's why we have those tornado watches up, as well as severe thunderstorm warnings already issued out here. With all that wind energy combined with that warm Gulf air, going to cause problems down there. But I do want to note also on the northern and kind of the western side of this system, we are going to have some snowfall. So looking at kind of overnight tonight, as we get into tomorrow morning and into kind of midnight tonight into tomorrow morning, I should say, we got that snow breaking out here into sections of the Midwest, and then still this line of storms working its way through the south, and then in between all that, still some heavy rain to worry about. So a lot of us are going to see at least something out of the system here in the east. Then that snow really picks up getting into tomorrow morning into sections of the Midwest, and then as we get into tomorrow afternoon, we're going to kind of have two areas to look out for severe weather. One down here into the south, and then another area up here into sections of Ohio, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But once we get into tomorrow, that's whenever that snow threat then works its way into sections of northern New England. That's why we have some of those winter weather advisories up for sections there. And then as we finally get into the Friday time frame, this kind of first piece of this system, if you will, begins to work its way on out. But behind it, you have this cold front sagging all the way down south into the Gulf. And with that, we're going to get more precipitation to ride up it and eventually get low pressure to form on the tail end of this cold front going into Saturday, and that's when we could have that winter weather potential in the Carolinas. So this is that system. We'll go more in depth in that later on in the video, but for now let's go ahead and talk about kind of that first piece of the system. So this is for tomorrow. Got that first severe weather threat from Indianapolis over to Cincinnati, up towards Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, having that marginal risk, and then down here towards the Florida Panhandle, Mobile, Alabama, back towards Tallahassee, seeing that potential for severe storms tomorrow. Now, this is just a marginal risk, so this is about as low as you can get while having a threat stated by the Storm Prediction Center, but nonetheless, it's enough you're going to want to watch out for if you're in those areas. And then the threat shifts to the southeast even more going into Friday. So Beaufort, South Carolina, down towards Savannah, Georgia, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, kind of that section of the country seeing that threat on Friday for severe storms. Other than that, though, we do have snow to worry about with this system. So I do expect a pretty good swath of 3 to 5 inches of snow here from sections of Iowa up through Wisconsin and through the UP of Michigan into northern Michigan. So this won't be a very wide area impacted, but the people that do see that snow could get 3 to 5 inches, maybe some people getting 5 to 8 inches, but overall I think 3 to 5 is a pretty safe bet. And the winds will be whipping as well, so you're going to want to watch out for that as the system moves on through between the next 24 and 48 hours. Also going to see some snow out of this up into New England, especially Maine. So again, a pretty small area, more confined area seeing that snow, but nonetheless, snow will fall with this system here in these sections of the country. So those of us that don't see the snow and don't see the severe weather, we're still going to see some heavy rain. So here into the St. Louis area, northern Arkansas, sorry, I had to think about what state that was there, so sorry to everyone in Arkansas, but either way, my point is we're going to see a lot of rain here in a lot of areas. So here into the southeast, I do expect kind of more rain, especially going into this weekend here into sections of the Gulf Coast as this kind of boundary just gets stuck there and we continue to get rounds of precipitation and move up it. And we'll definitely watch that going into this weekend. But the big story for this weekend, and what I'm sure most of you are here for, is for that snow potential in the Carolinas and Virginia. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to tell you what we know and what we don't know. And sorry to inform you, but there's really a lot more that we don't know than we do know at this moment in time. So let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to start with our Euro model. All of this data is from today, from this afternoon. So this is the latest data we have right now. So this is that first piece of energy that works its way on through. And then as we get into this weekend, you can see we get more of this precipitation to kind of ride up that boundary before eventually going into Saturday, we get some low pressure to begin to form and intensify off the Carolina coast here. So the setup in general, this is the main problem we have. We'll definitely have the precipitation. I can guarantee you that. We're going to see at least rain, if nothing else, this weekend in the Carolinas throughout both states and into Virginia. The biggest problem, though, is we don't really have much cold air up here to work with. So what we need is this low pressure to deepen enough and interact enough with other features in the atmosphere to help cause what we call dynamic cooling. What that means is pretty much the storm intensifies enough that it pulls enough of that cold air down from the upper parts of the atmosphere down to the surface, and that helps to cause rain change over to snow. Now, we see this a lot of the times in the Carolinas. It's very rare in the Carolinas. We have a storm like this that moves through, starts as snow, and ends as snow. We always have some kind of precipitation battle in the Carolinas, and I expect that this weekend with this system. So this is the Euro model. This is midnight Saturday. You can see heavy rain falling across all of the Carolinas, except for the mountains, where we begin to get that change over to snow. And as we get into the early morning hours of Sunday, back towards the Tri-Cities into Tennessee, so Knoxville, Johnson City, Bristol, and then back towards the Asheville area, that changes over to snow, and that changeover even tries to sneak along the I-85 corridor here into upstate South Carolina, so Oconee County, Pickens County, Greenville, Spartanburg, Cherokee counties, trying to see that change over here in the latest Euro, and I would expect this would probably extend up towards the Charlotte metro, but it's really, wherever this kind of cutoff happens, it's going to be really tough, and these are tough to forecast, as I'm sure all of you are familiar with in the Carolinas. Plenty of meteorologists around here get a lot of flack this time of year, and I'm sure that's going to happen this weekend because this is just a tough one to forecast. But latest Euro does show consistent snow back here over western North Carolina into, again, sections of eastern Tennessee from Jefferson City up towards kind of the Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina border there. And then that continues going into Sunday afternoon before then pulling up through Virginia and working its way up the I-95 going into Monday. So that's the Euro model. Let's show you the GFS now. And for all you snow lovers out there, now's the time that I'm sure you're definitely going to cherry pick this part of the video, and that's okay. I expect that. I can handle it, but this is not a forecast. This is just one model run of some data that we have that we're going to look at, we're going to analyze here. So GFS going into this weekend, same story as the Euro. We get that low pressure to deepen here off the Carolina coast going into Saturday afternoon, and by the time we get into Saturday night, the GFS here gets a swath of very heavy wet snow to develop here into the western Carolinas and even into the Piedmont of the Carolinas here. And that continues into Saturday night into Sunday morning, and you're getting really just quite the winter storm here from Augusta, Georgia, all the way up through the Triad area, through Charlotte as well, seeing some kind of winter storm out of this on the latest GFS. And then that continues through the day Sunday before once again pulling out by Monday. So the biggest difference here is the GFS just shows obviously a colder solution. It shows more of that cold air working its way through the atmosphere to the surface and allowing that snow to get that changeover from rain to snow. So one thing I will caution with you here is I'll bring this back a little bit. And with this GFS model run, you get a lot of soundings like this. And what I want you to pay attention to here is the bottom numbers. So that shows a dew point of 34 and a temperature of 34. So what that means is even if this does occur and we get this heavy, wet changeover to snow, these temperatures are going to be absolutely crucial to how much accumulation we get, because we've been in the 70s. Today here in Charlotte we hit 70, down towards Columbia we've been in the 70s, up towards Raleigh we've been in the 70s, so it has been warm this week in the Carolinas. And if we can't get those temperatures to fall below freezing for the places that do see snow, we're going to need very heavy snowfall rates to overcome that, and that's going to be difficult. So if we get temperatures in the places that it snows to get to 32 or below, I think some people could get quite the snowstorm out of this. I really do. But whether that happens or not is the big question. And right now, it's really a toss-up, and we're going to have to continue to watch these model trends over the next couple of days. So this is a map that those of you from the Charlotte area, obviously you know Brad Panovich. He loves to use this, so I'm going to use it because I think it does a great job at showing what the realistic scenarios are here. So this is the chance of seeing an inch of snow falling between all of the ensemble members or all the different components of these models. So first we'll look at the GFS. Remember, this was the snowier model. So you saw that crazy deterministic model run. Now let's take a look here at what this looks like in terms of all of its members. So it does show, some kind of winter storm taking place here over the Carolinas, but look at this. Even in the mountains, seeing an inch of snow accumulate, the highest chances we're seeing are just cracking a coin flip, a 50-50 shot. Back towards Charlotte, you're in the 30% range. And then once you get down towards Columbia and Augusta, you're more into the teen and 20% range. So it's a very different story than the deterministic model run shows. And I think this is a more likely scenario just because of how marginal these temperatures will be that we're working with. And you can see that continues before eventually exiting the region to start next week. So that's the GFS ensembles. Let's take a look at the EPS or the Euro ensembles. The Euro here shows more of locking in that solution of snow in the mountains, and this I agree with. I really do think the mountains could see quite the snowstorm out of this. So Asheville, Boone, even the valleys in the mountains, I think this is the best shot you've had at seeing an actual snowstorm so far this year. So this is something I agree with a lot here that the latest Euro ensemble show. And it also shows a pretty classic kind of I-85 setup here through the Carolinas. So this is the latest Euro ensembles, and again, you look back towards Charlotte, still about 30% chance here, but, Asheville, you're cracking 75, 80% chance, and that extends up through the escarpment, through Virginia. So right now, this is really the solution I would buy more than the GFS, is kind of this Euro ensemble idea of, I think we'll get at least an inch of snow here in the mountains. I really do at this point, and we're about 4 days out, so that can change, but I think that's pretty likely. Back towards the Charlotte, Greenville area, that's where we have a lot of question marks. And then back towards the Columbia, South Carolina area, the Raleigh area, right now for you guys, unfortunately, I think cold rain, because we've seen plenty of times in the Euro win these kind of short-range battles with the GFS, and I think that's probably the most likely scenario. So if we add all of our models together, look at what kind of snowfall they show, this is what they show. Again, the greatest idea of seeing that snow here in the Carolinas, but more specifically up here into the mountains, seeing those chances of snow. So I do want to talk about the Northeast as well, because that's the Carolinas. That's what we know right now for the Carolinas, and we'll know more as we get closer. And today's checking my phone, Wednesday, which I think I said that earlier, so I shouldn't have forgotten that. But today's Wednesday. This is like a Saturday night, Sunday event, so we still have like half a week to go. But up here in the Northeast, we know even less. So this is the latest Euro run for the Northeast. You can see we get this low pressure to ride up the coast, but once again, we're fighting the fact that we just don't have that much cold air, so this thing's going to have to make its own. And with that, you get kind of a rain-snow mix along the I-95 corridor early next week. The GFS model shows a very similar story. You get that low pressure to ride kind of up the coast, but doesn't quite get there, and we're still fighting kind of that, those ingredients that we're missing. So snowfall in the Northeast right now with all of our models blended together just kind of shows a whole lot of we don't really know. There's a lot of spread here. There's a lot of question marks. But right now, the Northeast looks less favorable than the Carolinas for snow. But if somebody in the Northeast does see it, I think it could be the I-95 corridor, to be completely honest with you. But that's really all we've got for the Northeast right now. And as we get closer, we'll break that down more for you guys up there. But unfortunately, we really just don't know that much right now because these systems are really difficult to forecast whenever you're having to deal with just the low pressure itself trying to bring its own cold air. It's unfortunately just a really tough thing to forecast. But with all that said, hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something too. Try to be as clear and concise as I could, but I can only do as well as you just saw. So hopefully you have a great rest of your day, though. And again, if you are new here and you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. But with all that said, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.